welcome to your favorite show, the Mastermind Podcast. I'm your host, Adoration Bizure, and I'm joined today by Mrs. Mercy Kwaramba. And guys, on this show, we give you nothing but nuggets. And today is yet another day where we are ready to give you nuggets, as we always do. And we are going to be talking about a very interesting, can you say it's interesting? A very informative topic. And this topic is something that, most people they don't want to talk about. But I feel it's something that is very, very relevant to each and every one of us, because each and every one of us, sooner or later, we go through the process of what we are going to be talking about today. So, as I say to you guys, today I'm joined by Mrs. Mercy Kwaramba. And Mrs. Mercy Kwaramba, she is an author. She authored a book which is selling like hotcakes at the moment, and it's entitled Mothers of Angels, right?
Yes.
Yes. And okay, let me not preempt everything. Let me open the floor to Miss Mercy. Miss Mercy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you for coming to this show. We know that you have a very busy schedule, and for you to be here, it's an honor and a privilege to us, and we do not take it lightly. So, guys, as we about to get straight into business, Miss Mercy Kwaramba, let me start by asking you, to give us a brief, summary of your book. What is it about?
Thank you so much for having me today on your podcast. So my book, Mothers of Angels, dealing with the loss of a baby, it talks about the journey that a mother takes when they lose a child. So this is based on a personal story, something that I experienced 9 years ago. So what I do in the book, I share my personal experience. At the same time, I go through the grieving process, and then I share strategies on how to cope with loss, as well as give people information on what to say and not what to say when dealing with someone who has lost a baby.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, so maybe if you could start by, giving us some of the things that you're mentioning, some of the things that how someone can deal with grief. I think that is the most important thing. I know on the book you were addressing the loss of the child that you had lost, but for me, I feel like the processes could be the same. Even if you lost a father, you lost a friend, I think the processes are the same. I stand to be corrected by you. I don't know. Are the processes the same?
Yes, it is the same. At the end of the day, grief is grief, and we have to go through the grieving process.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, grief is something that is unique in the sense that everyone grieve in their own way. We grieve differently. So what is important, what I believe and advocate for, is everyone has to go through the grieving process. It's not something that you can try to hide or try to suppress, because when you do that, there are always after effects. That's where you see people, some they get depressed, some stress, and we have had situations where some even actually failed to cope to an extent that they will also die because they failed to cope with grief of a loved one.
But how do you get to know that, I think now I am old? Is there a stage in your life that you can really feel that I think now I have the strength to go to the next chapter? Let's say you've lost your child. You can say, I think now I have the strength to have another one. Or maybe you lost a loved one. You say, now I have the strength to move on and start another chapter. Do you get to that point as a person when you are grieving?
So when you're grieving, what I would say is you get to a point of acceptance.
Okay.
Just to accept what has happened to you. And accepting doesn't mean you forget. And it doesn't mean maybe, you just move on as if nothing happened. But acceptance is to be able to live with what has happened to you. And you still move on, but at the end of the day, once you lose a loved one, it's something that you carry with you the rest of your life, because there are always memories, right? For example, if you're a mother, you've lost a baby, you carried that person for 9 months. So you cannot just brush that aside to say, oh, because they are gone, so it's okay, I can get over it. Whether it's a mother, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, it's something that you always have for the rest of your life, because they've been part of you. You cannot just erase them. But you get to a point where you accept to say, now it's okay. Because remember, like I said, grieving is a process. You go through all the process. I talk of shock, the first thing that happens to you when you hear your loved one has died. For example, in my case, when the doctors told me my daughter is no more, I was shocked, because no parent is ready to bury their own child. Yes. You're thinking, how is it possible? And then you get into into denial as well. You're denying what has happened. You're asking yourself, this cannot be happening to me. Why me? Why her? So all these things, anger, you get angry at yourself. Why did this happen to me? You blame yourself. Maybe I did something wrong. I could have done something better. So there are a lot of things that happen during the grieving process. But at the end of it all, you get to a point. I believe I've reached that point where I've accepted that this is what has happened to me. And evidence that one has accepted is, like in my case, right now I can talk about it with anyone. Now I don't cry anymore. I've seen people who have had a similar experience with me. 9 years later, when they try to talk about it, they're already crying, because they didn't allow themselves to grieve, to go through the grieving process. They were suppressing their feelings, which then do not go away at the end of the day.
That's so true. And but how did you deal with conversations, of people making condolences, giving condolences message to you, or of people who are asking you, what really happened? Because I feel at that time you'll be having a lot of pressure. And I think there are certain things that you'll be sensitive to. So how did you deal with those kind of conversations where people were trying to get more details from you of things that had happened?
A good question. So, yes, you're right. This is a big issue when people lose their loved ones. People will come to you saying all sorts of things, some which are not right. Because I always believe sometimes if you don't know what to say, it's better to be quiet, because people end up saying the wrong things. So you're trying to deal with what has happened to you with your emotions. And people come to you because they don't know what to say. Sometimes they end up saying the wrong things. Like in my case, I lost a child. You will hear someone come and say, it's okay, it was only a child, you have another one. But at that moment, I don't want to hear such words that I'll have another one, because there is no way I can replace that child with another. So it wasn't easy dealing with people coming to you saying a lot of things, They're thinking maybe that's the best way to help you. Some will be saying, you have to be strong. You should be strong. Why are you not strong? How do you expect me to be strong after what has just happened to me? So this is why I always say, I'm raising awareness to say, sometimes the best thing that someone needs when they lose a loved one is not for you to say things to them. It's for you just to be there.
Okay.
Sometimes I think it is important to just be there, sit next to the person. And what I believe is people will share what they want to share. And when they share with you, then allow them, give them that safe space to share their emotions, what they're feeling. But if you're not sure of what to say, I recommend that people should not say anything when someone loses their loved ones.
So guys, this is an advice to all of us as you are hearing Miss Kwaramba saying that if you don't really know what to say when someone has lost someone, it's better for you to just be silent and just be there for them. Provide any support that you feel you can provide, but from her onwards, she's saying it is much better for you to just, avoid saying a lot of things because you might end up hurting the person. And Ms. Kwaramba, can you tell us how the loss of your baby shaped your mindset, like your perspective to life? Because I'm sure when something big like that happens, you start to have a different picture of things, how you see things. Maybe your view to life or your everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that question. It made me realize that in life, nothing is guaranteed. Sometimes you grow up, like for me, I grew up believing that sometimes you have everything that you want in life. You can you work hard, maybe you get a good job, you do this, you get that. You think it's like that. But losing my child made me realize that in life, anything is possible. Nothing is guaranteed. So it made me see life in a different way, where I view like vanity is vanity, all is vanity at the end of the day, And also it made me realize that whatever we have is because maybe God has allowed us to have that. It's not because we are better than other people, or maybe we pray more than other people, or, there are a lot of things in life that when they happen to us, we give ourselves credit. We think because I'm smart, I'm like this. But when I lost my child, it made me realize that life is not about that. And it also made me value life a lot. I'm one person who value life a lot. If anyone that is close to me has a birthday, for me, it's a great deal because, other people have left. I didn't just lose my daughter, I also lost a brother who was younger than me. So now it made me realize that it's important to value life, just the gift of life. For me, it's good enough, more than anything else. So that I could say a lot of things, but for now, I think these are the two most important things that I've learned from my loss.
From your loss. Oh, thank you so much. And I know maybe in your experience, you had a lot of support from your friends, relatives, and people that are close to you. But maybe you could want to help someone who is out there. They don't have support. No one is supporting them. No one is standing by them. No one is calling them to checking up on them. And it's like they are just in a world of their own, but they have lost someone. What advice would you give to someone like that who is facing such kind of a situation?
I always advise people to reach out to, even if it means going for professional counseling, looking for a psychologist, a therapist to help you. It is very important because grieving is real. After writing my book now, I speak to a lot of people. The things that people say and what people go through, if they don't get help, they might actually break down. So I believe it's important to reach out. Reach out to a friend, reach out to someone close to you. And I mentioned about go for therapy as well. Speak to someone about what you're going through, because it's very important to share your feelings and your emotions. And while there, I'll add on that it's okay. Many times we want to try and brush aside what you'll be feeling. I always say to people, the first thing that I tell people when I talk to them, I tell them it's okay not to be okay. It's very important to know, because many times people think when you show your vulnerability, you are weak, or maybe you're not strong. But, in life, all of us, we have our ups and downs. It's not every day when we are perfect. There are times when you feel, overwhelmed by certain things in life. So it's okay not to be okay. For me, that's the starting point, because many times people, when they are feeling what they're feeling, especially when they lose their loved ones, whatever is going through their head, they start blaming themselves. I don't know what's happening with me. I have these feelings. Sometimes I wake up at the middle of the night, I'm crying. It's okay, because you've lost a loved one. So it's okay to feel that way. But what is important is to find help, talk to someone who can help you. I would recommend someone who's been through a similar experience, because they know how best to help you, and maybe not necessarily help you, because like I said, grieving is unique. Everyone, we carry it in our own way. But what is important is when someone then share their story, you can relate and validate to see, okay, this is normal. Yes, it's okay to be feeling this way, and obviously, surely this will pass.
Yeah. And I would also like to ask, because I know when you are grieving and all, you might have people that are supporting you. But there's always comes a time when you are by yourself. Like in your case, I'm sure you were with your husband, you're always together and you are grieving together and all. But I'm sure even maybe you are on the same bed, but there's a time that you are by yourself. You have that alone time where you are thinking very, very deep. What brought you comfort during those times that you are by yourself? Like you feel like, yes, I have people who have been calling me, who've been checking me, how I'm feeling throughout the day. But this is now, it's just me and my mind and the pain that I'm feeling. How did you handle those kind of situations?
It's really a difficult spot and place to be in. What helped me, I'm one person. I think this is why I even wrote the book. I'm one person who likes to share, express themselves. I'm a very emotional person. I share my feelings, whatever I'll be feeling. So what I did, I think that really helped me during that time. I have friends who also lost their children, right? So what I did during that time, when I was very low, I created a WhatsApp group. I added all of them.
Wow.
I called it Mothers of Angel group. So they didn't know each other, some of them, but I pulled them in a group because I realized I needed help. So what I would do in this group is every single day, I would write to them. I would share my emotions. I'll be telling them, this is what I'm feeling. So all of them, they'll then come back, respond, tell me, this is normal. I also felt this. I felt that. To be honest, that community, it helped me a lot. Because knowing that someone has been through the same experience and now they are okay, it makes a difference. For me, it did make a difference. So I think this community really helped me a lot because I was not afraid to share my vulnerability, to share what I was feeling. I would constantly, almost every day, I'll write something on the group to tell them how I was feeling, and they'll constantly respond. So this was also a source of comfort for me because I knew I was not alone in my journey, in the process. I had other people to help me who had been through a similar experience.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're a Christian. You believe in life after death and a whole lot of things that we Christians believe in. What were there moments where you felt like this was just the end of it? Maybe your faith was shaken to say, like what you were saying earlier, that you would say, why me? And when you had questions that you had forgot, was there a moment like that in your life where you had experienced such kind of situation?
Definitely I had. So I remember when it happened, when I was told that my daughter was gone. The first thing that I did, I remember I said this statement. I said, why God? I said this. And I remember my father was there. He just said to me, my daughter, we don't question God. These words I remember very well. He told me, we don't question God. He does what he wills. But to be honest, at that moment, I asked that question because I was not getting it. I was not understanding to say, how does it happen that I'm allowed to carry a child 9 months in my womb, 5 days later she's gone, Maybe she shouldn't have been there in the first place. So definitely in times like that, sometimes your faith is shaken because you're thinking, like when she got sick, I prayed for my daughter to be well. So why did she not get well? So definitely you have those moments, but I'm glad I got over it. I got to a point where I accepted that at the end of the day, God knows what's best for us. Yeah. So here's the reason why it happened. I might not understand it here and now, but I'm sure there is a good reason why that happened to me.
Yeah, true. And did the loss of your baby affect relations that were around you, like in the term of how you felt for other people because of the pain that you're going through? Maybe you end up resenting other people. And if it happened to you, how did you deal with it? But if it did not happen to you, how do you think someone can also deal with that kind of a scenario where maybe you are now resenting other people, or you just want to be by yourself, or you don't want to see babies because it reminds you? How did you deal with that kind of a situation, or how would you advise someone to deal with that kind of a situation?
Okay, good question. So you are right. It's very difficult. When you go through that experience, you definitely resent people. In my case, like you said, I didn't want to be around people because I just wanted my alone time to go through what I was going through. Maybe the people that I would then accommodate at that time where those people would understand my journey. We had been through the same experience. Because why I was resenting people is, the thing is, when people have not been in a situation, they don't know what to say. For example, I would have friends who would come, they start joking around you. I think for them, it's okay because they're thinking, they're trying to make you laugh, to make you forget what is going on. But for me, it was a big deal because I was like, I don't see any reason why I should be laughing or smiling right now. So this is why I felt maybe being alone will help me process whatever I was going through, which in a way helped. But also in the process, sometimes you lose other people, other friends, because now they don't know how to handle you. Yeah. So they'll kind of disappear because they don't know what to say to you. So definitely it was a big deal. And also the other point that you've raised is very true. I didn't want to be around babies for a long time. Years, I could not visit anyone in hospital with a baby. Because being in hospital, seeing a baby would trigger memories. Even places like baby welcome, baby showers. I didn't want to be in those places. So it's unfortunate, many times in life, we tend to judge each other. You'd find maybe people judging you to say, oh, she doesn't want to be cooperative, she doesn't want to participate. But you don't know the battles that I'm fighting, what I'm going through. So for me, it took me time to be able to hold someone else's child, and also maybe to visit the hospital or attend these
baby shower.
Yes, events that reminds me of my daughter. Yes, okay. It took time.
What advice would you give to someone who is, having those kind of emotions, those kind of feelings of not wanting to do certain things?
I would say, I believe grieving is a process and we all go through it. And we all grieve in our own way. So, personally, I don't believe in prescribing things to people to say, don't do this, do that. I believe a person has answers to how they can cope with grief. For example, I told you in my case, I made a personal decision to say I'm not going to be in a hospital. So because of that reason, I know what I was going through. I was selfish at that point. I didn't care what people think, because what would happen is when I visit those places, when I go to that hospital to see that baby, it was me who would not sleep that day, thinking, reliving the experience. So I always advise people that you know what works for you. Yes, there's people who tell you, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, but you know what you're going through. You know your triggers. If you know your triggers, try to avoid them at that point, because what I believe is the time will come when you'll be able to do everything else that you were doing before. But when you still can't do it, it's okay not to be able to do it. I know we live in a world where people will judge us, they'll say things, oh, now they don't want to be cooperative, they don't want to do this and that, but you know what you're dealing with. It's important for me, it was important for me not to be in these places, because I knew what it could do to me. So that is my advice to anyone going through loss. If you've suffered loss in your life, you know what you're going through in your life. It's important. I've had situations, I'll give you a good example. I have someone close to me who lost a daughter. So she would feel, every time she was posting on WhatsApp, she's putting status of a child. And then someone comes to her in their inbox and she's like, stop this because you're inviting, the devil in your life, don't do this. But that's how she feels is the right way for her to grieve for a child. Seeing those pictures, posting them, for her it's therapy. So sometimes people say things. I always say experience is the best teacher. If you've not been in a situation, don't judge someone. Unless if you understand their story, then you are allowed to judge or maybe give advice based on that particular subject. So it is important to allow people to grieve in their own way, at their pace. What we just need to do is to be there for that person. Make sure they don't break down. Because I always believe as long as someone has a safe space to let out their emotions, to say what they're saying, in that safe space, they will definitely heal. The problem why people don't heal is because we're not creating that safe space for people to go through the grieving process. We are trying to ask them to suppress their feelings, what they're feeling. If they feel like crying, you're telling them, no, it's not okay to cry. Don't cry. It's a form of weakness. No, that's not right. So I believe as a person who has lost a loved one, you know what you'll be going through.
That's so true, guys. That's really true. And I really think what we are receiving here, it's helping someone out there. And let's go back to the book, Miss Kwaramba. Could you shed more light on the point that you get where you decided, now I'm going to write the book? Because I'm sure there was a decision that you actually made, that I'm going to write a book about giving advice and all of losing a loved one, losing a child. What had really triggered, what had really made you to get to that point? To say, yeah, now I'm going to start. This is the day I'm going to start.
So what happened is, I told you, when my daughter died, I created a WhatsApp group called Mothers of Angels.
Yes.
Where I was sharing my emotions to these ladies who had been through the same experience. And I felt they helped me a great deal. So from that time, I had a burden where I felt I also need to help other women going through the same experience. Also based on my experience with what people were saying to me, I realized there's a gap. People do not really understand the impact of one losing a child. So I felt I owe it to the community to share this story for people to understand that losing a child is really a great deal. And people who do lose a child need help. So how I started it, I would do I created a YouTube channel. I would do audios where on any specific day I would just share about my journey. So I was like, I need to share my journey. So I did first episode, I did the second one, and during that time I was still still grieving, because I remember sometimes when I would record I would literally cry because it was still so fresh for me. But I just felt that was the only way to express how I was feeling, to put it out there in writing. So when I did this YouTube channel, what surprised me was the response that I was getting from people, some even close to me, that I didn't know were suffering that much. We had lost their children, some had even miscarried, because in my book I had a chapter on miscarriage where I say miscarriage is loss as well. So I got this overwhelming response from people. I then realized there is a gap when it comes to this topic. I realized there was a gap because people don't talk about it a lot. People don't address the issues containing this. I know, like in some cultures in Africa, you hear situations where people say, when someone loses a child, you don't go there to pay your condolences, or maybe you're not supposed to go and bury that child. People still believe those things because they think it was only a child, so it's okay. That's when I started thinking about writing the book. So that's how I started my process of writing. I did my MBA because the thing is, I had the thoughts in my head, but I didn't know how to put it down on paper. So I did my MBA. When I did my MBA, when I was doing my dissertation, after I did that, I realized writing a dissertation is like writing a book. I then thought, okay, since I'm really passionate about writing my book, let me write it. I remember when I started the process, I approached a lot of different people. Many people had their own ideas and concept to say, maybe present it like this. Why don't you do it like maybe in interview form? Why don't you do it? But because for me, I wanted to be authentic. Like, I wanted to bring out my story to the world, not anyone's story. So I sticked to what I felt was the right way to do it, to put my emotions on paper as well as helping other people. And to be honest with you, I think writing the book was part of my healing process as well. Because after I completed my book, I felt like I had the burden had been lifted from me. So, yes, that was my journey.
Okay. And now I'm going to ask you a question that is just a general question. And I would like to hear from you what you also think about what other people think. People that have lost loved ones, they come up with these beliefs that might be superstitious or might be an issue because their mental status maybe at that time, it's not that, it is confused, it has a lot of pressure and all. There are people who lost loved ones who actually believe that they have guidance, a supernatural guidance that they get from the people that they lost, or some they dream of them, like they have these dreams and they think, because I'm dreaming of my loved one, so maybe that's also the way that I'm getting my comfort. Some, they actually think they get comfort from those kind of dreams. To you, what's your take on that? And there are also others who are just filled with fear. They can't just be alone. They want always to sleep once the lights are on, or they because of this kind of superstitious beliefs that people have. For you, what do you think, or how would you help someone who is going through those kind of processes in their minds? Because this is something that is real. This is something that people are actually facing who have lost their loved ones.
Okay. This is really a tricky question in the sense that beliefs are different, right? We're dealing with people who have different beliefs. But from my perspective, from what I believe, I don't believe when maybe someone has died, like in my case, my daughter or my brother, I have access to talk to them. No, I don't believe that. I believe once they're gone, they're gone. Though for my daughter, I still believe she's an angel, because while she was young, she was pure at heart. So she is an angel. But her being an angel, for me, I don't believe it then justifies maybe her talking to me. No, my personal beliefs differ, right? I don't believe in that, to be honest. But on the other note, when it comes to maybe dreaming, if it's just a normal dream, like for example, someone loses maybe a spouse, or they lose someone who's older. In my case, maybe because it was a baby, yes, I'll dream, but your visual is limited. But we have situations where people lose a child maybe who's 35 years. It's a lifetime you've lived with that child. So once in a while, maybe they'll just come. It will be just a visual. It's personally, I don't think it's a big deal, unless maybe it has some connotations to say they're doing something with you, or they're helping you somewhere. No. But if it's just a normal dream, it's a normal dream. I don't believe in all these things that, when someone dies, there's the power to control you and things like that. This is my personal belief.
Yeah. So guys, that's your personal belief, and she's entitled to her belief. If you want to take advice from her belief, because she said you are entitled to your beliefs, right? And you are also entitled to your belief if you think otherwise. And Miss Kwaramba, are you reaching, how can someone get access to the book, to your book?
So my book is on Amazon, Amazon.com, not UAE. So you can get a copy on Amazon, and also they can, depending on where they are, sometimes if they ping me, if you're in UAE, I always have copies as well. I can give it to them. I also have a website in UAE where they can get the books, Pac-Man. Yes. Okay.
So guys, the book is quite informative, and I would urge everyone, not just people who are grieving, but all of us, because grief is something that can just come. It comes like a thief. No one plans to grieve. And it's always be good for you to be prepared. And even to just help someone else who is having that kind of a situation. And Miss Kwaramba, would you kindly give us like your last words to the viewers, just rounding up everything that you have said and giving us your last words that you want us to keep.
Okay.
Yeah.
My last words based on this topic. First, to the grieving mothers who loses children, like I said, it's important to seek help when you feel you are overwhelmed. And it's also okay not to be okay sometimes. You know that you're not alone in your situation. Someone has been through what you're going through right now. It shall be well. This is what I can say to you, that it shall be well. And to other people who are around these mothers, it is important to provide our support. Let's be there for them, to listen to them, to care for them, because it's not an easy road to walk once you've lost a loved one. And it's not something that we should just take lightly and easily. Even I always advocate to say, even for employers, it's important also to give employees time, space to grieve, because it's not an easy thing to go through. So be there to listen to them. When they shout that they are struggling, be there to hear them out. Those are my words.
So guys, you have heard it from yourself, from Miss Kwaramba. We've been hosting her today. She has been talking to us about strategies on how to cope with grief. And thank you so much, ma'am. And we really appreciate the words that you have given unto us. And guys, this is it for today. And until next time, goodbye.